Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping into a text that has shaped, well, pretty much everything. We're talking about the very first chapter of Genesis, and we're going to break down its incredibly structured, almost poetic story of creation, piece by piece. And here it is, the opening line. The entire story kicks off with this absolutely monumental statement. It's so simple, right? But it's also incredibly grand. It basically sets the stage for a cosmic level event. You can almost think of this one verse as the title for the whole show that's about to start. But before we get to the world we recognize, there was, well, chaos. The text describes the early Earth as without form and void. The original Hebrew is even cooler. It's tohu wa bohu. It paints this picture of a dark, empty, watery mess, kind of like the raw clay before a sculptor gets to work. Okay, so how do we get from that chaotic abyss to a structured world? Well, what's fascinating is that it's not just a random list of this happened, then that happened. No, the author uses this really powerful repeating rhythm, a pattern that gives the whole thing this amazing, almost song-like quality. And this is the engine that drives the whole chapter. Check it out. There's this four-step formula that just keeps repeating. First, there's a command, and God said. Then, boom, it happens. And it was so. After that, a little quality check. It was good. And finally, it wraps up the day. This pattern creates this incredible rhythm, this cadence of intention, action, and approval. All right, let's look at the first 3 days. This part of the story is all about one thing, creating order out of that chaos we talked about. The main action here is separation and division, literally taking that formless mess and giving it some structure. So here you can see how it all unfolds. Day 1, you get light and dark. Day 2, the sky and seas. Day 3, land and plants. See how each one builds on the last? We're basically setting up the fundamental building blocks of our world. Time, the atmosphere, and the ground beneath our feet. Okay, day 1. The very first command is iconic. Let there be light. But think about this. It's not just about flipping a switch. It's about creating the whole concept of time by separating that light from the darkness. That's the first bit of order, right there. So on day 2, this whole theme of separation just keeps going. A firmament, which is really just a great word for an expanse, or what we'd call the sky, is made to divide the waters. And just like that, you have the realm of the heavens and the realm of the seas. The big forming job wraps up on day 3. The waters get pushed together so that dry land can finally show up. And get this, the moment that space exists, boom, it's immediately covered in plants. The stage is officially set. Okay, so the stage is set. Now the story makes a big shift. If the first 3 days were all about forming these different spaces, the next 3 days are all about filling them with all sorts of inhabitants. And this is where you can really see the brilliant structure of this chapter. It's so elegant. There's a perfect parallel between the days. Day 4 fills what was made on day 1. Day 5 fills what was made on day 2. And day 6 populates what was made on day 3. See that symmetry? That is absolutely not an accident. It's a really powerful literary choice. So let's look at this filling phase. Day 4, we get the sun, moon, and stars. Day 5, it's sea creatures and birds. And then on day 6, we get land animals and, finally, humans. It's this clear progression from the lights in the sky to all the living things, with everything leading up to that final act. Remember day 1 with light and darkness? Well, here on day 4, that space gets filled. The sun, moon, and stars are put into the sky. And the text is super clear about their job. They're there to govern time, mark out the seasons, and basically rule over the day and the night. All right, next up, the sky and seas that were formed back on day 2, now they get filled with life. The text paints this picture of the waters just teeming with creatures and the skies full of birds. And you'll see this phrase pop up, after his kind, which really drives home this idea of order and different categories of creatures. And finally, we get to the dry land from day 3. It gets populated with its inhabitants. You've got livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that move along the ground. The world is looking pretty full now. But the work for this day is not quite done. Because everything we've seen so far, all of it, has been building to this exact moment. The final creative act on day 6 is presented as the absolute peak of the whole process, and that is the creation of humanity. Now, this is huge. For the very first time, that repetitive formula we talked about gets broken. There's this pause, this deliberation. The text says, "Let us make man in our image." That phrase completely changes the game. It sets humanity apart from everything else that's been created, hinting at a totally unique role and relationship. And with this special status comes, well, basically a job description. The text lays out this mandate for humanity to be fruitful, fill the earth, and have dominion. Now, that word dominion, it really suggests a kind of responsible leadership or stewardship over this brand new world. So the work is done. Humanity is here. And the chapter wraps up with one last big picture evaluation. And this one is different from all the others. Remember how after the other days the verdict was just good? Well, now, looking at everything, the whole shebang with every piece in its proper place and working together, the assessment gets an upgrade. It's very good. This really signals a sense of completeness, of wholeness, that everything is perfect. And that leaves us with a pretty big idea to chew on, right? All of that artistry we've been talking about, the structure, the rhythm, the parallels, it's not just there to sound nice. It's communicating something really powerful about a world created with intention, with order, and with purpose. In a way, the structure is the message. So what do you think that says about the whole story?